Congress presses the presidents of some of the most prestigious universities on specifically the backlash after the October 7th attack in Israel and whether or not certain language is anti-Semitic or not. Before we get into that, if you're new here, consider subscribing. So let's jump into this. This is starting to go viral, and goodness gracious, this is just theater at its finest.
At MIT, does calling for the genocide of Jews violate MIT's code of conduct or rules regarding bullying and harassment? Yes or no?
If targeted at individuals, not making public statements.
Yes or no?
Wait, hold on. If you're calling for the deletion of a group of people,
Yeah.
if only that's targeted to specific people,
Like, do they need names?
they
or
need
are we talking about
names,
the
people. I want your specific people to be deleted.
Yeah.
You person, but just calling for the chant in general is not. This is crazy.
For the genocide of Jews does not constitute bullying and harassment?
I have not heard calling for the genocide for Jews on our campus.
But you've heard chants for intifada.
I've heard chants, which can be anti-Semitic depending on the context, when calling for the elimination of the Jewish people.
So the,
That's a word salad, dude.
Which can be,
Depending on the context,
depending on the context, it can be
when calling for the elimination of Jews.
when calling. But just so we're clear, we're agreeing that the calls for intifada are calling for the elimination of Jewish people.
I'd be more interested in what's the context of which calling for elimination of Jewish people is not harassment or bullying.
Yeah, give me that caveat.
Yeah, give me
Show
that. I mean, like,
that.
yeah.
Where they're saying that, but they don't really mean that.
Hypothetical. Let's just walk it through.
Yeah.
So, like, what's the group of people doing? What are they saying? And what's like, oh, you know what? That's reasonable.
Yeah. Are they secular? Are they not secular?
Yeah.
those would not be according to the MIT's code of conduct or rules.
That would be investigated as harassment if pervasive and severe.
Ms. McGill,
What does that mean? We're calling for the elimination of a group of people, but you're only saying it'll be investigated if it's pervasive and severe? Was that, yeah.
The funny thing is that making threats to like the life of somebody is already illegal. Like if you make threats like that, like you can get arrested.
But apparently, only if you're doing it directly to a person, not to their ethnicity.
But that's,
You know, if this was targeted towards like the elimination of all black people,
yeah.
it would be handled way different. And I'm not. And by the way, and both are deplorable.
Yeah.
Both are deplorable.
Totally.
You shouldn't be calling for the elimination of any group of people.
Yeah, I but it's like interesting because, you know, or if you said in today's culture, all students should be eliminated. And, you know, people will be like, oh, maybe this person's culture.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's interesting. Like, that's already illegal. So does this make it not, does calling for the genocide of people make it not illegal because it's so hyperbolic almost? Like they're like, oh, they're not actually serious. You know what I'm saying?
That's a good. It would seem so.
Like, oh, they're just,
Because there's a lot of this happening.
yeah, you can't, obviously you can't say you want to kill somebody, but like if you want to kill a lot of people, you're not going to do that. So that's fine. It's like, what?
at Penn, does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Penn's rules or code of conduct? Yes or no?
So they moved on from MIT to Penn.
If the speech turns into conduct, it can be harassment. Yes.
I am
I don't like her face.
Or is that the smirk?
She already started smiling too.
If the speech can turn into conduct, it can be considered. Hold on, pull that back.
So when we say conduct, do we mean like actually
If
killing?
the speech turns into conduct, it can be harassment.
Okay,
Yes.
wait. If the speech can be, if the speech turns into, so if the speech turns into physical actions, then it can be considered harassment. Not the fact that it already turned into physical actions. That's not harassment.
Or how about the fact that it's not harassment anymore? It's just murder. Like,
Because if
like,
the speech turned into physical action, it would be the said thing that we're trying to avoid.
all they're trying to figure out here is, does the college code of conduct have anti-Semitic calling for genocide under harassment and bullying?
Yeah.
She's saying no, it's actually not under the code of conduct of bullying or harassment, and it only might be bullying and harassment after someone's
If they accomplish their goal.
killed somebody, and now it's gone federal. Like now this is like, a whole new problem. It's not
my
even
gosh.
code of conduct of like, excuse me, miss, your skirt is too high, and excuse me, mister, you killed some Jews.
How did we get here? How did we
And
get
it can
here?
be. We have to. The board is going to review your murder of Jews and decide whether or not it was harassment.
There are definitely college campuses where there's definitely a call for the elimination of Jewish people.
I think we did a video on it.
That is
at
happening.
Harvard.
Yes, at Harvard. That is happening. There's a spectrum here where, yes, absolutely. There's a difference between saying, hey, don't bomb Gaza as hard. Okay, different conversation. That's not the conversation we're having, bro. Listen to the questions being asked and listen to the word salad responses.
Bullying or harassment.
If it is directed and severe or pervasive, it is harassment.
So the answer is yes.
It is a context-dependent decision, Congresswoman.
It's a context-dependent decision. That's your testimony today. Calling for the genocide of Jews is depending upon the context. That is not bullying or harassment. This is the easiest question to answer yes, Ms. McGill.
That, like, you know, and by the way, this is why the question isn't being answered, because this is being allowed on these campuses. This is frustrating because this is happening. Like, this is happening. And because Jewish people in Israel is viewed as the oppressor with the power and the technological advances and the alliances to the West and America and quote unquote whiteness, even though Israelis look more Arab than white if anyone's ever been to Israel, right? They're not the Jews from Brooklyn. That is why this is allowed. That is why this is allowed. That's why this is pervasive. It's because it plays into a ideological bent of the world. And so when you call for these sorts of things, all of a sudden they're okay.
Your testimony that you will not answer yes.
If the
Yes
speech
or no?
becomes, if the speech becomes conduct, it can be harassment. Yes.
Conduct meaning committing the act of genocide? The speech is not harassment? This is unacceptable, Ms. McGill. I'm going to give you one more opportunity for the world to see your answer. Does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Penn's code of conduct when it comes to bullying and harassment?
It can be harassment.
The answer is yes. And Dr. Gay, at Harvard, does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Harvard's rules of bullying and harassment? Yes or no?
It can be, depending on the context.
What's the context?
Targeted at an individual.
It's
Pause here. Her last name is Gay. And so what was trending was President Gay, because everyone was wanting her to step down. And then it was fun. There were some funny tweets of being like, "Oh, I thought it was just a new name Trump came up with for Biden or something." All right, go ahead.
So now you can call, according to them, you can call for the elimination of a group of people as long as you're not saying it to an individual.
Yeah,
That's basically what the argument is. This is insanity.
but then saying like LGBT in my faith is not okay.
Right. That's considered hate speech.
That's hate speech.
Wow.
targeted at Jewish students, Jewish individuals. Do you understand your testimony is dehumanizing them? Do you understand that dehumanization is part of anti-Semitism? I will ask you one more time. Does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Harvard's rules of bullying and harassment?
Press her, please. Keep going.
Yes or no?
Anti-Semitic rhetoric.
And is it anti-Semitic rhetoric?
Anti-Semitic rhetoric when it crosses into conduct that amounts to bullying, harassment, intimidation.
Oh my gosh.
That is actionable conduct, and we do take action.
So the answer is yes, that calling for the genocide of Jews violates Harvard Code of Conduct, correct?
Again, it depends on the context.
It does not depend on the context. The answer is yes, and this is why you should resign. These are unacceptable answers across the board.
Wow. Shout out to who is this lady's name? She crushed it. Representative Elise Stefanik, House GOP. Yeah, shout out to her, man. She crushed that. I think this is insane, man. And I think this stuff happening is insane. And I think that the tolerance, right? That because this is a progression. You tolerate these sorts of things. You tolerate creating boogeyman categories for groups of people, and then because they're in this category and they have the power and they're to blame for everything, then it's okay to dehumanize them, and it's okay to dehumanize them, and it's okay to call for their genocide. But not unless you do it in a way that's within whatever context. Like this is a mind virus. This is brain rot. And I'm glad that these folks are being held accountable. And by the way, and I'm glad that Jewish people are pulling their funds from these universities, institutions, who by the way, people should have been pulling their funding. They're just not showing you who they really are. They showed you who they really were years ago. You guys just didn't believe them until they came home. The chickens came to roost.
Yeah.
Like until it came to something as egregious as, oh snap, there was a terrorist attack on Jewish people, and these fools are calling for the destruction of Jewish people. But
they really started going hard for free speech once we call them for genocide for Jews.
Oh, right.
I have an idea. We get them to be pro Second Amendment by saying we should take Hamas's guns away. They'll be like, no, that's the right to defense. You know, that's their God-given right.
That sounds like a Babylon Bee.
That's like, what's up with that? It's like, now you care about free speech? Which was already not covered by free speech. Calling for genocide was never actually covered by free speech.
We see, according to the Bible, that prayer is extremely important in terms of us being transformed from the inside out when we get aligned with God's will. For the Christians watching this channel, I want you guys to implement these spiritual disciplines in your day-to-day life. And the only way I've been able to do this consistently is through writing down my prayers in a prayer journal that does a few things. One, it allows me to reflect and come to God humbly and ask him to move on my behalf. And two, it allows me to document my prayers, which ultimately help me remember the very things that I was praying for and see the hand of God tangibly in my life when he answers them. So I would urge you, consider writing down your prayers. It could be in a blank notebook. It could even be on your phone. Or you could check out the one I personally designed and used for my own quiet time and spiritual discipline that I think will be a huge blessing. It's the exact structure and system that I've used for years to pray and be more consistent in my spiritual disciplines. You can pick yours up today by clicking the link in the pinned comment below. All right, I'll see you over there. Peace.